What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to 80s Song of the Week, the show where we take a trip back to the decade of neon lights, cassette tapes, arcades, MTV, and some of the greatest music ever created. Every episode, we spotlight one iconic track from the 1980s and talk about why it still matters today. And this week, we're heading to London. Tonight's song is moody, stylish, mysterious, cool, and unlike almost anything else that was on the radio when it exploded on the charts in 1986. We're talking about West End Girls by the Pet Shop Boys.
In a western town, a dead end world, the eastern boys and western girls. West End girls.
Now, this song wasn't just a hit, it became a cultural moment. It helped define synth pop, it introduced millions of Americans to the Pet Shop Boys, and it proved that pop music could be intelligent, atmospheric, and danceable all at the same time. And even today, the song still sounds futuristic. So let's go back to the mid 80s and talk about why West End Girls became one of the coolest songs of the entire decade. Before the song became a worldwide smash, the Pet Shop Boys were just two guys from England with a very different style compared to most pop acts at the time. You had Neil Tennant, the calm, deadpan vocalist with a voice that almost sounded like he was narrating a movie instead of singing. And then there was Chris Lowe, usually standing there silently in sunglasses and a hat, looking like the coolest human being on earth. Together, they created something unique. In the mid 80s, pop music was filled with giant rock choruses, glam metal bands, flashy dance acts, and larger than life performers. But the Pet Shop Boys felt colder, smarter, and more urban. Their music had emotion, but it wasn't emotional in the traditional sense. It was detached, stylish, almost cinematic, and West End Girls perfectly captured that feeling. The first thing you notice about West End Girls is the atmosphere. It doesn't burst through the speakers like a rock anthem, it creeps in. That slow electric beat, the synths, the echo, the strange, almost hypnotic production, and then Neil Tennant starts singing, or really half speaking the lyrics. Sometimes you're better off dead. That opening immediately grabs your attention because it doesn't sound like a typical pop song at all. The track feels like a late night walk through a rainy city. It feels lonely, cool, a little dangerous, and the production deserves a ton of credit. The song is a polished synth pop masterpiece. Every sound feels intentional, nothing's overdone. The bass line's incredible, the drum machine is simple but unforgettable, and the chorus somehow feels huge without becoming loud. That's part of what makes West End Girls special. It has restraint. It doesn't scream for your attention. It quietly pulls you in. And once it does, it stays in your head forever. Another thing that separated this song from a lot of 80s hits was the lyrics. A lot of pop songs in the decade focused on love, partying, heartbreak, or rebellion. What else is there? But West End Girls feels more like social commentary. The song is about class divisions in London. The West End represented wealth, fashion, nightlife, and upper class living. The East End represented working class neighborhoods. And throughout the song, there's this tension between those worlds. The lyrics paint pictures instead of telling a straightforward story. You hear about city life, pressure, status, violence, ambition, and survival. It almost feels like poetry, and yet somehow it still became a massive radio hit. That's the crazy part. The song was smart, really smart, but it never came across as pretentious. It still had an infectious groove. You could dance to it without fully realizing how layered the lyrics actually were. And that combination of intelligence and accessibility became one of the Pet Shop Boys' trademarks. Now let's talk about just how big this song became. West End Girls hit number one in both the UK and the US. And for a British synth pop duo with such an unconventional sound, that's a huge achievement. This wasn't bubblegum pop. This wasn't arena rock. This was sophisticated electronic music becoming mainstream. The song helped launch the Pet Shop Boys in their international superstardom, and they would go on to become one of the most successful duos in music history. What's even more impressive is how well the song has aged. A lot of 80s tracks are fun nostalgia pieces. You hear them and instantly think of leg warmers, malls, VHS tapes from roller rinks. But West End Girls feels timeless. It still sounds kind of modern. You could hear this song playing in a nightclub today, and I don't think it would be out of place at all. Especially in that synth-heavy music where technology can sometimes date songs quickly, but the Pet Shop Boys avoided that. The production is sleek enough that it still works decades later. So why has West End Girls survived while so many other songs faded away? I think part of it's because it captures a feeling more than just a moment. It feels cool, not try hard cool, but effortless cool. Effortlessly cool. The song has confidence. It never rushes, never forces itself. It just exists in its own world. And listeners want to step into that world. The song also helped influence generations of artists. You can hear traces of the Pet Shop Boys in electronic music, indie pop, dance music, alternative music, and even hip hop production. That icy electronic atmosphere became hugely influential. And honestly, the song is just memorable. That chorus sticks with you, the beat sticks with you, the vibe sticks with you. Even people who don't know much about the Pet Shop Boys usually recognize West End Girls within seconds. At the end of the day, West End Girls is one of those defining songs of the 1980s, not because it was the loudest, not because it was the flashiest, but because it dared to sound different. It proved that pop music could be artistic and commercial at the same time. It created an atmosphere that listeners still connect with almost 40 years later. And it introduced the world to the unmistakable style of the Pet Shop Boys. If you never really sat down and listened closely to the song, give it another spin, throw on some headphones, listen to the production, listen to the lyrics, listen to the mood it creates, because West End Girls isn't just a song, it's a vibe, and that vibe still works today. Thanks for watching another episode of 80s Song of the Week. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, subscribe, and let me know in the comments what 80s song you want featured next. Until next time, keep the synths loud, keep the nostalgia alive, and I'll see you in the next one.